All right, Big today is Thursday. It is January 25th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. I'm joined in studio by a guest. I am joined by a photographer. His name is Barry Butler. He is predominantly Chicago-based, right? Or solely Chicago-based?
Well, Chicago is one of my main subjects, and I go back to Ireland twice a year, so certainly do a lot of photography there.
So born in Ireland.
I was born in Ireland, born in Wexford, Ireland, which is in the southeast portion of Ireland. So if you ever go there, please go there because there's some amazing things to see.
And then you moved here when?
When I was a little guy, you know, so we moved to near Irving and Pulaski.
Okay.
And we were there for a few years and then eventually moved out to the burbs, and the rest is history.
That's it. Yeah. Well, if you're in Chicago, you probably know Barry. He does a great job taking photos around the city. And I've never had a photographer on, and just kind of chopped it up before the show here. You were like, how's everything going? You're like, this is the worst. There's no clouds. There's no, the weather's just crummy for you. So you said polar vortexes are great for you.
Oh, yeah. That's like Christmas.
Really?
Yeah, no. If I could have polar vortexes on a regular basis, I'd be the happiest guy 12 months out of the year because the landscape changes. So you go to North Avenue Beach, which is a popular spot. You go there one day, and the next day it's completely different. Or heck, you can go there in 3 hours. It's completely different when you have that type of weather. Mm-hmm. And it just changes, just gets me excited. You got the steam coming off the lake, and then you have ice that's all over the place, and then the pancake ice, which people are now amused by. But yeah, all that stuff is great. You don't get that in the summer.
Yeah, the summer's boring, you said.
Yeah, because it's just, everything is green, and it's just kind of bland. And also the other thing, too, is that sunrise starts at 5:15, so that means I'm getting up around 3 a.m.
Wow.
So, and then sunset is, 8:30-ish, so that turns it into a long day.
Okay, but how does it work, though? All right, so are you fully independent?
I'm the only one who's out there shooting. I know sometimes people think there's multiple people going on, but there's sometimes I actually have multiple cameras going on in certain areas, so I can pull off where it seems like I'm, in many spots, or there's someone helping me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get into all this?
Well, I broke my collarbone playing hockey. And what ended up happening was I was told I couldn't do anything for 8 months. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm an active person. So I said, you know what? I'll take up photography. So I got myself a camera, got myself a tripod since I only had one arm to work with. And the rest is history. And I just kind of fell in love with it. I taught myself, read books. Back then, there was no YouTube.
When was this?
25, almost 30 years ago now.
30 years ago, okay.
Yeah. And about 25 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And I just... I think the best way to learn is making mistakes. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. I did a lot of it. And then in a situation like that, too, is unlike today where you get that immediate feedback on your image. Back then, it was film. And it cost you to shoot 36 images. Mm-hmm. So, and then when you get back the results, you're like, oh, my God, I can't believe I messed this up. So it was a real easy way for me to learn because you realize that, again, you had to get it right in the camera or you just wasted a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, that's how I got started. And really the thing that really was interesting to me at the time was both sports and concert photography. So that was like kind of my thing because I always noticed that those shots were like it was once in a lifetime that you get that shot. It was always the moment that was so critical with both sports and concert photography. So that's where I was kind of leaning, but then I kind of just got into landscape photography. And it was just so funny now, Sports Illustrated just closed up shop, so, and that was some amazing sports photography.
Oh yeah.
And that was kind of my playbook when I was just, a kid looking at photography and like, oh, that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just eventually just got into more of a landscape thing as I was setting up a tripod and trying to use my camera. I'm like, okay, I'm near an ocean, I'm near a waterfall. And then I just kind of taught myself that way.
Okay. And then what were you doing at the time before you got injured?
From a career standpoint,
Yeah.
I was in the radio business.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And this is how I know this area real well. When I first started off, I was doing traffic reports, and often I would take them. I would go up in a helicopter, and so that kind of started my knowledge of the city. So if something was going on, I'm like, okay, I know I'd want to be there, and then it just kind of evolved.
Yeah. And then at the time, do you know, like, all right, I know landscape pays this much, or, you know, sports or concerts pay this much. Do you have no knowledge?
No
or anything
idea.
like that?
And what I was often doing, Chicago was just an area where I kind of practiced, because, like when you're not in a rhythm, like you haven't done something in a while, you're not in a rhythm.
Yeah.
And so I would shoot around here because I was going off to Ireland, or I was going to the Grand Tetons or whatever. And those images I would just sell to whomever. But what ended up happening was social media came around, and I started posting my Chicago stuff just because I was just like, I was out at Fullerton Avenue today, and that was kind of nice. And then people were like, wow, that's a neat shot of the air. I'm like, just wait. I'm off to Ireland tomorrow, and I'm going to have some really cool shots. And so what ended up happening was, because of that encouragement that people liked the Chicago images, I started kind of photographically falling in love with Chicago. So there was no big plan. There was no like, okay, what do people make doing this? It just organically evolved, and the rest is history.
That happened by a hockey accident.
Yeah. And the funny thing is if there was any sport that I was shooting a lot, before really I started rolling with the photography stuff, it was hockey, because my sons played, and they played all over North America. I was putting 30,000 miles a year, bringing my kids to every possible place, I think, in North America to bring for hockey. So it kind of started there, but I was really trying to do a real good job with landscape photography.
So then independently, then how does it work? So you take a picture and then someone will offer you something for it?
Well, there's a few layers to what I do.
Okay.
So I try to shoot every day. As long as we don't have days where it's just completely cloudy or just boring blue, you know? And I post them, and then people can buy the images on my website, or they actually just inquire. And it's amazing sometimes, like, hey, it was my birthday today, and I really want to have a memory of the day, and I really like that sunrise shot. So there's images I will prints I make available, and then I do books, I do calendars, and then I also license my images. So, it could be a tourism board. It could be, let's say, one of the tour boats. They're looking for images, for example, for their website. So it kind of runs the gamut. I've also done jigsaw puzzles too. So there's a variety of ways that I've repurposed what I do.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's an independent way. Then how does it work for a place like Getty? Like they just have their own photographers?
They have their own, yeah. And they don't pay very well.
Okay.
In the so-called in the day.
Yeah.
The photographers who were doing that type of business were making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And I think with the advent of cameras being all over the place and our iPhones or any type of smartphone, I think that kind of changed the landscape, no pun intended, of how photographers were making money. Mm-hmm. So I found a specialty, which is, quite honestly, it is Chicago. And I think I just found my own little niche. Yeah. I would, like I said, there was no master plan. It just kind of organically developed, and I've been very fortunate that it's developed the way that it has.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, you're the guy I think of when I think of Chicago photography.
That's nice of you.
For
Thank
sure.
you.
So and we talked about it with Danny, who runs our social media. He's a big fan of yours as well.
Okay.
And he's just always like, yeah, Barry Butler. Whenever we need someone, be like, hey, we'll tag you, could we use it, whatever. And usually you're okay with that.
Yeah.
How much of an issue is people just ripping your stuff and not giving you anything?
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. It's more, what's funny is that what I get more of is people saying that they took that shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I might have some small business that starts to use it for promotion or something like that. And I just, send a note, hey, listen, you have a couple of options. You could take it down, or you could reimburse me for my work, But really the big issue is when I have people who say, hey, I took the shot, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Wow.
And that happens often.
How often?
Oh, if I'm searching for it, it could happen easily once every other month.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't understand that. Why would you get a thrill out of the fact that I took the shot I took?
But if it happens that often, it has to be some type of genuine confusion, no? Or you think it's that many people are just scheming?
I think it's just scheming.
Really?
And again, I don't understand this, the logic of that, but it does happen. And what's interesting is it usually is someone who follows me who alerts me, and they give someone a lot of crap for doing that, and then it just kind of snowballs into either I'm reaching out to them, or like there's some very savage people who follow me who I guess like my work that much that they're willing to stick up for me. So God love those people.
So then when you go to them, you'll be like, hey, or will they come to you and be like, hey, you ripped that off from me, or they just try to?
They'll ignore, and then eventually I think they get enough pressure from the people who follow me that they decide to then take it down. Yeah, but there's been some very interesting moments at times.
Yeah, no, that sounds like. Do you have anyone in particular that was just like super odd?
No. It's like I said, most of the people, they will cooperate. They'll just say, okay, I'll take it down. And there's been a few people who said, okay, I'll pay for that because I really like it for our website. But yeah, the ones who are just taking my stuff and saying it's theirs. They cut out the watermark, the whole thing. They do whatever they can. I just sit there and say, what kind of insecurities do you have that you're using my stuff to promote yourself?
Pass off as your own,
and quite honestly, I think my stuff is fine. I don't think it's anything special. So it's interesting that you would go ahead and take my work and say it's yours.
But still, you're out there, like you said, you're waking up at 3 a.m. sometimes.
There's a lot of effort in what I do. Yeah. I just don't show up someplace and say, oh, okay, hopefully it's going to be really cool here today. I mean, I put a lot of work into it, so I take a lot of pride in my work. So it will bother me that someone's taking my stuff and repurposing it because it's just the effort that I put into it. And but yeah, it's odd. I can never explain it. Just like when someone puts up a fake Facebook page or Instagram page of you.
Yeah.
I never understood that.
Yeah, just weird. So what goes into it then? So you're waking up at 3 a.m. and you're like, all right, there's a polar vortex tomorrow. Are you like, I need to be in this spot at this time?
It's usually the day ahead of time.
Okay.
I really get into a lot of weather data, whether it's the clouds, where the sun's going to be, what's the wind going to be that day? I put it all together and then let it rip. And I'll tell you, I think I'm probably about 85% accurate in what I believe will happen in a certain spot. I become really dangerous when it comes, I guess, to meteorology, even though I know absolutely nothing. Yeah. But I figure out what works for me, photographically. And then so then I just pick a spot, but then I'm always trying to find a different spot. That's the thing. And it goes back to what I was saying about, really enjoying sports and concert photography, because it was a moment that you can't replicate. And that's what I'm always looking for. So, where else am I looking? And the crazy thing for me with my brain is I'm always framing. And so I could be walking, I could be driving, and I'm like, ooh, I haven't seen that spot before.
Yeah, you're always looking
and
for
then
spots.
I'm kind of working my way into trying to get to a certain spot, and it could be someone's rooftop. It could be, okay, I'm going to have to get a helicopter, or I'm, whatever. So
you'll rent a helicopter?
Yes, I
shoots?
do. Yeah, and it's not cheap. It is very expensive. So I better, really know what I'm doing and know that I'm going to generate revenue from that photograph.
Holy shit, Barry. Anything for the shot, huh?
Yeah. Oh, well, heck, for example, St. Patrick's Day last year, right?
Yeah.
For Chicago, the dying of the river. Talk about a production. I had 4 cameras situated along the Chicago River in different buildings going off when they're supposed to for the dying of the river. And then I flew in a chopper. So...
Oh my God.
Yeah. So when you talk about
wait, so you just got 4 unmanned cameras just hanging around the city?
Yeah.
Don't you get nervous about that?
No, they're in spots that they're secure.
How so?
Yeah. Variety of buildings. I did that also for New Year's Eve. I was
on
top of one building on the west end of the Chicago River, and then I had another set of cameras down at the east side.
No, and you never had a camera stolen or nothing like that?
No,
That's good.
Yeah. Oh, please.
Yeah. How many cameras you got?
5 or 6.
Wow, that's a lot of cameras.
Yeah.
Damn,
Well, what's really crazy is when you break things like, that stuff.
Like the lens is super expensive, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for example, you familiar with the band Humphreys McGee?
It sounds
kind of a
familiar.
jam band.
Yeah.
They got a local Chicago connection. They're a national band, real popular. So I ended up working on the image for one of their more recent singles. And we were in the Rookery. I don't know if you've ever been to the Rookery. This is the building that has just an absolutely beautiful staircase. It just goes down. It spirals for like 11 floors. And the song that they had that was coming out was called Staircase. So I set up my gear. I have the camera pointing down because we're going to take a shot of that just depth of the stairs. And I don't know how. I still to this day don't know what happened, but all of a sudden the lens I had on the camera got dislodged, and watching a $3,000 lens just take a dive was just one of the most painful things I went through. And it was sort of like a goalie in hockey though. And I still remember that evening, I'm like, okay, next shot. And I just got another lens and just kept working. And the manager of the band was just like, how much was that lens? I said, $3,000. He goes, oh my God, I can't believe that. And I'm like, but Kevin, we got to get this shot.
Yeah. Damn.
So yeah. And that was last February too. That was painful.
Yeah,
but
that's tough.
Thank God for insurance.
Yeah. We did a shoot on a boat in like Lake Michigan, did like the playpen, and some boat zoomed by and like tidal waved, and our camera guy like got some water in like the lens and stuff, and I'd never seen this. Like it looked like his dog died, especially because it wasn't his, So like he had to go tell his boss like, hey, but it ended up being fine. The lens I think was okay, but people don't realize how expensive those fucking things are.
Oh yeah, I mean, heck, I think I have 3 drones in Lake Michigan right now, because a variety of things have happened, and I got into drone technology early on, so I think that might have had something to do with it. But I've had, I swear, birds either knocked it down
Smoked
or
it.
Yeah. So yeah, but thank God for insurance. State Farm is a good friend of mine these days.
Yeah, no, that's nice to get that stuff insured for sure.
Yeah.
So if you're like, what do you have like a favorite spot though?
Well,
I don't know if you'll give that up or not.
No, I don't mind. I used to love Fullerton Avenue before they decided to change it. I don't know if you remember, it was kind of rocky and had a lot of character.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was teaching lessons, I would bring people there because there was tons of compositions. Because that's really the thing now about photography is the gear is going to get you in focus. It's going to get you proper exposure. The gear is great, but composition is everything.
Yeah.
So these days, I really love the kind of the south end of the lake, pretty much from 31st Street to well into Hyde Park, because they haven't really turned that into like a shopping mall. I know it would never look like but just it doesn't look clean, And I love the jagged. I love the old piers, the post still sticking out of the water. Mm-hmm. It just adds so much character. So yeah, if I had a preference, it's down south. And just tons of character, and most people don't go down there to photograph, which I don't understand. But hey, people love going to North Avenue Beach all the time.
Yeah, because that's like a big thing, right? You got to find not abandoned, so to speak, but like old school like places that are kind of just haven't been touched.
Yeah, and I'm looking for character. I'm looking for something that has some sexiness to it, and if it looks real clean and just a photo of Michigan Avenue, I just don't really get excited.
Isn't that crazy? That's like such a weird thing about photography. Like you guys seek out the imperfections, and that's what people want.
I am constantly looking. There's always a spot, and I constantly write. I have lists super long of like, how about over here on Division at whatever. I have a lot of those notes, and eventually I get to those spots. But I'm also going back to what your original question is. How do I do this every day? It is, okay, the current weather will be perfect now for that spot. Let's go.
Oh, so it's all about, this is when the game day will be.
Yeah.
Here's when it will be good.
Yeah. And it's all hours.
And now that's just eye. You got to have the eye for that, because like you said, the camera does everything for you. You just got to have the eye.
It's composition. It's everything. Composition is everything. I mean, you can you can throw someone on YouTube now and they can learn how to operate a camera. That's not really the difficult part. It used to be, you'd have to factor out, your f-stop and aperture and so on and so forth. And am I at the right ISO and all these different technical things about photography? You don't need to worry about that anymore. That's just too easy to figure out.
What do you believe is the prettiest view of the city?
Wow. Well, from above is just amazing.
Yeah.
I will say that much. Again, it's down along the south end, Hyde Park, looking back at that city. I think there's some absolutely beautiful views. I think the Lincoln Park Lagoon is, I don't know why, it's, I think I've shot that 5,000 times. There's something about it, especially when you have the rowers in the water there, whether they're racing or they're just someone sitting there and just enjoying the calmness of being in the pond there. So I don't think I can say for sure like
a certain
go to a
building,
spot. Yeah. Because it's always the moment.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing too. It's sort of like, okay, this is my favorite girlfriend right now, and then, oh, there's a new girlfriend next week, So, and that's the other thing too with my shots. I will like it, and then I start looking at my imperfections, all the mistakes I made, and then I'm like, I don't like that anymore.
Really?
Oh yeah. It was funny. People will ask me, like the book, or any of my books or calendars or whatever, they'll say, oh, it must have been real tough to, figure out what ones I get. Yeah, because I have to come up for a calendar. I'm like, I have to come up with 12 images I actually felt good about for the entire year. And they're like, wait, you do that every week? I'm like, yeah, but you don't realize that I just am my worst critic, and it's painful to do things like that. And then a book was even more painful.
Yeah, it was tough to pick them out, huh?
Yeah. And it's more memory. I try to focus on the memories of of the shots. A lot of times there's good stories behind some of these shots. So sometimes that's why a photo will be a favorite of mine.
What's a favorite photo that has like a unique Chicago Tide story to it? Do you have one off the top of your head? Well,
one of the shots that I think has a lot of meaning to me, but people really enjoy, is this one shot called Autumn Afternoon. And it's the shot that I took, now 11 years ago at Fullerton Avenue. And, I as I mentioned, I plan everything, right? And so there was a shot that was planned. It was November of 2013, beautiful autumn colors. And I said, okay, I got a 10-minute window where the sun is going to illuminate the bark on the trees and really light up those golden leaves. And so I set up this shot. And I got there and I'm all ready to go. And then there's this guy walking backward and forward in my shot. And every possible F-bomb way that you could say it was coming through my brain, but I was not verbalizing it because he had every right to be there. And I'm like, please, you're killing me. I got 10 minutes here, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden the guy sat down. I'm like, no way. And so I had to, do a real, change my composition, took the shot, took only 2 shots. And then what's nice about the feedback, you can go look, okay, do I have everything in focus? And by the time I got done with that, I'm like, wow, this could be an awesome shot. He was gone. He just sat down for like a moment and then took off. But that shot has like told me everything, about photography, life and everything. Like, you're going to have to pivot sometimes. Mm-hmm. You have to have a little patience and then have a little faith that things are going to work themselves out. So anytime I'm in a situation where things are not working out, I always remember that photograph. Mm-hmm. And so, and that photo has made me a lot of money. And I know one day some guy's going to come up to me and say, that was me in the shot. But
still has not happened.
He's going to have to, 1, find me, and then 2, actually figure a way to prove out that it was him. But,
man. I hope
and that's the other thing. If there's someone in my shot, I did not expect them to be there. They just allowed a cool shot to be there.
Accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the progress of cameras, like you were talking about? What was like, Polaroids are like big time back, right?
Well, they were, a big thing. I mean, I certainly see people using them every once in a while. I got to tell you something. I do get amused when I see people, I got myself a film camera. Yeah. I'm like, good luck. I do not want to see another film camera ever again. I have tons of negatives. I have tons of slide film.
Now, were you doing like the fucking Robin Williams 1 hour photo thing? Like, did you ever run like that? Yeah, or is that not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would go out and you'd have your film and have 36 exposures on it, and they drop it off. And now I'm a little older than you. You drop it off to places like called Photomat. I don't know if you recall a place like that. It was just like, there were like a kiosk type of place. You drive up, give them your film, and then they would, ship it off to go get processed. And a week later, $20 later too, you get your images, and
that was it.
That was it. And like I said, that was a painful way to learn. But yeah, but the upside for me now is, people will say, especially like during a storm, where I will take a shot and then put it right up on social media. And people are like, you just took that shot. I'm like, yeah. I'm not farting around with manipulating the photo to something it wasn't, And that's the other advent that's in photography now, which is the ability for people to manipulate things. As a matter of fact, it's even crazier. I think it was Photoshop now. You can just completely take out the sky or whatever that was in there, and they give you a sky that maybe you would like. I'm like, that's nuts.
So are you pro or con Photoshop?
I'm not into that. Yeah, because I kind of label what I do as landscape journalism. And so I take my shot and try to get it, posted as quickly as possible.
Got to be authentic.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with people who do that.
Yeah, but
knock yourself out, because ultimately it's your work. I just like it where it's like when someone sees it, they're like, yeah, I saw that sunrise. That was awesome. I saw that lightning or whatever. Then that makes me feel like, okay, I'm doing what I believe is the right way to do it. But that's what charges me, because again, I'm trying to do a puzzle every day, which is, where's the best place? What's it going to look like? And am I going to get the shot that I envisioned? And when I do, I kind of like high five myself, when I'm walking away, I'm like, oh, okay, that was awesome. So it's more than just snapping an image.
Man, I'll tell you though, definitely a lot more labor intensive and a lot more annoying with the film. But if you got one when it came back to you, that had to be a thrilling experience.
Oh yeah. When you got the right shot,
and
it was awesome.
And you got to wait a week, and you see, oh my God, this worked out.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is that length of time also changes your excitement. So when you get it, it's awesome, because there are many times I take a shot and I'm like, oh, I don't like it, and it could also be like situations what happened around it. Like I took a shot when I was in Ireland one time. I was up in actually Northern Ireland, and my tripod broke when I'm taking shots. And I'm at the Giants Causeway. I don't know if you know where that it's at. It's a magnificent spot. Highly recommend it. And one of my cousins came with me to just kind of keep me company. And I took this shot, and I actually had to have him hold my tripod together since it was broken. And he was like kind of the third leg, but using, his hands to kind of keep the third leg that was broken.
Yeah.
And I took a shot. I'm like, I'm just so disgusted, and I just let the shot sit there for 3 years. And then one day, as I'm kind of going back, and I have about 100 terabytes of images, mostly of Chicago. And I'm going through this shot, and I'm like, oh, I like that. I'm like, why was I so angry when I took that shot and I didn't want to see it again? So that happens, and it happens with my Chicago shots too.
Well, it's a damn tripod, Nothing could have been good that day because the tripod failed you.
Yeah. Now I've grown. I don't get so upset like I used to, but yeah.
What is so you said sunrise, or obviously sunset? What is better?
Sunrise.
Yeah.
Just because for me, it just feels like hope for the rest of the day. Where a sunset shot, that's the end of the day, and that stinks.
That's it. Oh, so it's more not photography based, really. It's just more so.
No. And I just, you have a little bit more time, I feel, to kind of prepare for sunrise in my mind, So, and then I think the lake especially looks better in sunrise anyway. So, and I do love having stuff along the lakeshore when I can.
Mm-hmm. What's like the most sought after? Like, what do people hit you up with the most? Like, what do they want?
What do you mean by that?
Like, what is like when someone's like, hey Barry, I want a photo of this. Like, what is it's like we want the lake, we want the Sears Tower, we want is there any like big ones, or it's just kind of like we just want good old landscape of Chicago?
It's that there are times where there's shots that I've taken, I'm like, I can't believe someone's buying this shot. I have this one shot. It's on my website. I think I call it Nights in White Satin. Or not, yeah, and it's just, it's off the song because I'm a big music buff, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the city in ice on Lake Michigan as a nighttime shot. People buy it on a regular basis. And I can't tell you a number of times I've been wanting to take it off my website.
But you can't do it.
Because people like it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm missing it, but for them, there's something in that shot that's a memory. And I get a lot of that. I get a lot of requests like, my son was born on this day. My father passed away on this day. Do you have something from that? I'd like to have a memory. So it's very interesting, some of the requests that come in.
And then what you seek is just different type of weather, different type of scenarios where you'll be able to kind of get the best exact minute or time. Right?
Yeah, it goes back to that, sports and concert photography, capturing a moment that never can be replicated again. That's what I'm looking for.
But you love lightning. I've seen your pictures.
It. Yeah, that's awesome.
You're such a lightning guy.
Yeah, I mean, talk about like something that will never ever happen again. From a standpoint of how that lightning looks or how the sky looks. It's I don't know how close you've ever been to lightning. You want to talk about one of the more interesting feelings you'll ever have is having, a bolt of lightning maybe, come down a block or two close to you. You can feel the heat.
Really?
Yeah. And it's why I can't tell you how many times people will ask me, could you teach me how to do lightning photography? I'm like, no way. What? I am not taking that responsibility.
That's a field?
People like it. They want to be able to, like, now I won't, like, for example, people go out and do tornadoes. I won't do that. I see the so-called expert, people who are storm chasers die. So I'm like, no thanks. But yeah, it's just in everything in life. People have interesting things that kind of get them off.
But there's a little bit of a, there's a knack behind that. There's a science where you could like, get really close or like it.
Well, the main science for me is to not get hit. Yeah. Be in a spot where have some type of protection.
Yeah.
I'll just say this part about lightning photography: don't ever be near the lake, because you are just asking to get hit.
Really?
Yeah, because the lightning sees that water, and then you are more than likely the highest point in the area, and you're just a target.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
That's not good. What's the scariest shoot you've been on?
Oh, I do have some interesting moments. There was I had a moment back in, I think it was June this year. Actually, last year. I'm forgetting my years now. It was last year. And I had a shot that I had planned where the moon, it was a full moon coming between the Sears Tower antennas. And I stationed myself between the Wrigley Building and the Trump Hotel. There's actually a dog run there. It's probably the size of the studio. And I had my dogs with me and kind of tied them up so I can take a shot. And I'm, knew I had like a 10-minute window and I just to kind of wait for the moon to come through there. And I saw a guy in the distance and he was like, I like your dogs. I'm like, oh, thanks. And I hear that often. It's nice to have two 80-pound dogs with me all the time. Yeah. It's kind of protection. And so I got done with my shot, and this guy was on the other side of the dog run in that area. And I grab my dogs and start making my way to my car. And this guy keeps on following me, and he goes, I really love your dogs. And I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? And this guy looked like he was on something. Oh, and all of a sudden, he just got right in front of my car. He goes, I really like your dogs. And I have one big-ass tripod. And I am not worried about hitting someone with it if I have to. Yeah. And I'm raising this thing, and I'm like F-bombing it like no tomorrow, and I'm trying to scare the hell out of him. And I guess I could swear, good. And the funny thing about it, I said to myself, it was at 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, you know what? I'm going to take that shot. I'm going to be able to get back home by 4 o'clock. I'm going to go take a nap and then get on with my day. I'll be able to, sleep for a couple of hours and then get on. Well, I was so amped up because of this guy trying to like challenge me with the dogs that I couldn't sleep after it because I was just the adrenaline. But yeah, I scared him off, and then I backed away, and I just waited till he eventually went away, and then that was.
So do you think he actually wanted the dogs? Or do you think he wanted your shit?
I have no idea, but I was not ready to find out. But I was ready to go. I'm like, all right, either you're gonna get the hell beaten out of you by my tripod, or it's going to be my fist or my dogs might sit there and eventually say, you know what, it's time to kick some ass here, Dad. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was probably, if I think about a scary incident, it was that. Mm-hmm. I had a situation, this month, 10 years ago, I took a spill at, near Adler Planetarium during the polar vortex. And I thought I broke my elbow, and it turned out that I ended up having an infection, and I refused to be admitted to the hospital because I had things to do, and eventually had to go back to Northwestern to get to check on it, and they're like, "Do you understand you're about 1 inch away from death?"
Whoa!
Because the infection traveled up my arm. So yeah, that was talk about some interesting moments and things you wouldn't expect, but yeah. So
yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. So I just had that memory the other day because I was looking at sometimes like on bad days, like where it's not that sexy out. Yeah. I will say, okay, today is Monday moment, or Turn Back Tuesday, or Way Back Wednesday, and I'll use a shot from that day, whatever years ago, and then I happen to go back. Okay, what happened on this day 10 years ago? Holy hell, that's the day that I almost killed myself.
Yeah, almost lost it at the planetarium. Yeah. What's the abandoned market like?
The what market?
Abandoned stuff is really kind of, at least I find that stuff
like an old church or something?
Yes.
I don't know, but I do find that interesting, but I also kind of think it's a little creepy.
Yeah, you stay away. Huh?
Yeah. I wouldn't go into some place that I wasn't supposed to be.
Okay.
I've certainly had interesting access over the years. But yeah, I'm sure there are people who love that and do real well with it. But yeah, I'm not into dark stuff like that.
Yeah, spooky stuff. Yeah, I follow a couple of Instagram accounts that are and it's kind of interesting.
Oh, especially like we see abandoned barns, in the middle of nowhere, and then you have that's kind of cool, and then you have the Milky Way, or
it's great.
Yeah, that's real cool. In Ireland, there's tons of that stuff because you have ruins, but most of those churches are all of rock. So but it's kind of neat.
So on that note, I assume you're not in on like the paparazzi game. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, following people?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah.
To sit there and wait for, no, I wouldn't mind waiting around for Taylor Swift to show up. But to sit there and just wait for Joe Blow to come out of a restaurant, oh my God. God love those guys who do that, but no, that's not my thing.
Do you kind of look down on them a little bit?
No. Hey, listen, whatever it takes to make a couple of bucks, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like for example, I have no interest in portrait photography. I have no interest in food photography. The people who do that knock themselves out.
Go for it.
Yeah. No, whatever floats your boat.
What is seen as like the most lucrative type of photography?
What's seen?
Yeah, like what is?
I don't know. I just try to control my own destiny.
You just stay in the landscape.
I mean, I've been very fortunate. It's worked out for me. I think if you really love something, you're going to find a way to make it work for yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. You guys here. How do you make this work? Because you're totally into the Chicago sports scene, right? And as a result, and the reason why this grows is because the people who are on the other side of the screen, they're like, I can tell these guys are totally into it. I love being in on that stuff.
For sure.
And the thing I get back with, at least what I do, people are like, I can tell you really love Chicago, and you make me look at this place much differently than how I ever thought it would be. Yeah. So I think, whether you're doing food, you're doing paparazzi, if you really love it, guess what? You're going to have great results.
Mm-hmm. How about the camera phones, like we talked about before? Mm-hmm. Like, is there something like glaring that you see and you're like, because everyone likes to tout how good the camera phones are now. Mm-hmm. Like, are they ever going to get to the level where they're doing what your cameras are doing?
Well, I'm sure they will. Yeah. They're actually pretty good. I mean, 95% of the people, they're fine with using an iPhone or smartphone. Was it Android? Mm-hmm. It's not the gear That's what everyone forgets. It's sort of like baseball. They all use the same bats. It's only could be a certain length and a certain width. I love the old wiffle bats that we used to have.
Yeah.
No one has that. It's all the same thing, but it's ultimately comes down to the person behind it or holding it. And heck, I've made money on some shots with my iPhone at times because it was the only camera that I could possibly have. As a matter of fact, was it 4 years ago when Patrick Kane had his 1,000 point. The only thing I can get it into the United Center was my iPhone. Mm-hmm. And I specifically got tickets on the side of the ice that the Hawks would shoot twice, and it was the night that possibly he could break it, and I made sure I was no more than 4 rows off the ice. And as soon as he got that point, I raced to the glass, put my phone up there, and Kaner and everyone else kind of congregated right by me, took a bunch of shots. I made a lot of money on that. People wanted prints of that moment.
Just iPhone.
Yeah, and I was the only one who had that, where I was right on top of them, where even the guys who, for the United Center, they're off on the side and they're shooting it from I was right on top of it.
They're probably so pissed.
Oh, I don't know, but I'll tell you this much. I paid for my tickets, which were scalped that night for me and my son. And you know how much, and back then, 4 years ago, the Hawks, that was a very expensive ticket, especially when you're only a few floors off the ice.
Oh, yeah.
So, I paid for the tickets and then some that night. It was great.
Yeah. No, hey, you did it.
Yeah.
That's it.
But
great.
There's an example of like a moment you can't replicate.
Yeah.
Kaner getting 1,000 points, so on and so forth. That was awesome. The only shot that I wish I could have got when I was there the night that he scored the goal with it, expired by like a tenth of a second.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have had that shot.
That would have been nice.
Yeah. But yeah.
So I guess in that vein, what any advice for like a newcomer, someone who's just getting into it?
Real simple, which is, and it's going to sound, how this comes out of my mouth is probably going to not sound very good. Shoot what you love. Mm-hmm. There was a guy that took lessons from me, and he lived out in the burbs, and he goes, I want to learn how to do this. I'm like, okay. And he's taking shots, and they were just okay, and I'm like, okay, you could do this, you could do that. And then he would show me his wildlife photography. I'm like, dude, that stuff is awesome.
You got something.
I said, this and this I would kind of change, and because when you're doing it this way, you look like an amateur, but little tweaks, you'll come off like a professional. Mm-hmm. And he is absolutely killing it now. And this was like 4 years ago, and he's absolutely killing it with wildlife photography. It's actually what he loves, but he was trying because he was shooting for likes, and that's where I think anyone who's going to start in photography, if you are going to do this because you want more likes, you want more followers, you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. You have to love what you're doing, and then you shoot, and if someone likes it, great. If they don't, you like it. And that's how I operate. I don't shoot for anyone. I only shoot for me.
Yeah, you're not doing Martha and Sam's wedding.
No, God, no way. Doing a wedding, I will shoot myself. No way. But no, the subjects I shoot is what I'm into. Like, for example, when we had the pandemic, right? Yeah. And we had the streets bare, people were like, all right, you're going to get some shots of the streets being bare. I'm like, that doesn't interest me. What's the excitement of that? Doesn't look fun. Doesn't look like Chicago. Yeah. I said, I'm going to continue what I do and what I enjoy. And I think that comes, and then see, the key to that is you're going to put all that work into it, and then you got the satisfaction. And then it's just amplified when other people enjoy it. And that's where it's kind of cool. But if this hadn't developed like it has, I'd still be doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Because I get a kick out of it.
You like
it's fun.
So what about going back to that guy on the bench, like you said? What if he's like, I don't want to be in that picture. I'm not cool with it. Would you just kind of like mess with his face or something?
Well, fortunately, his face wasn't shown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, I don't have too many of those where someone's face is, shown in my photograph. There's a lot. Sometimes it's silhouettes. It could be a side shot.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't had that experience.
That'd be a real pain in the ass if you got the perfect landscape and then it's just someone's like, oh no, I don't want to be in the background of here.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. There's some things like if they're the main subject of a photograph, then that's a different thing. Then you're invading someone's privacy. But if you're taking a shot and they just happen to be in there, I'm actually kind of in my legal right to be able to publish that photograph, and they don't get anything for it, because it was, they were just part of all the things that are in that photograph.
It was a surrounding thing.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you don't do like requests or anything like that? Like no one will. Like you're just like, hey, this is what Barry Butler does. Yeah. I'm waking up at X time and I'm going to go get some landscape photography.
Yeah, I mean, I might get hired out specifically by a company and saying, hey, listen, and this has happened with some of the boat companies. They're like, hey, listen, we need to replenish and update our imagery because the skyline always changes. That's the bad thing about what I do, because every year we have new skyscrapers.
St. Regis popping up, and
there's one right now. You remember where the spire was supposed to be?
Oh yeah.
There are already cranes there, and I took a shot over the weekend, and just in the shot you can kind of see the crane, right where the spire is going to be, or was going to be, and now there's going to be some really cool looking building. But 6 months from now, either I'm going to be avoiding that area, or a year from now, that'll be a new shot. And then as a result, all my other shots in that area are dated. That's the thing. Like I could go to Yosemite, I could take a shot 10 years from now, I could take it, 20 years ago, and it still will look the same. Maybe there's a couple more trees or whatever. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing something like what I do, I'm constantly having to update my imagery.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, think about it. St. Regis, One Chicago, those are new buildings. And we and then the South Loop is really developing.
And
then I'll tell you, if they put the Sox Stadium at 78, that is going to be so awesome. Yeah. Because when I shoot in that area is all just grass and it looks boring. So I'm always trying to shoot around it. But if they put a stadium there, that is going to be one magnificent photograph.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that, how it would look too.
So selfishly, I want them to move there.
Hey, it makes sense. Is there what landmark, like really, I don't know, do you have one that you like to go get at, one that changes a little bit?
You will see the Hancock often in my shots.
Okay.
I love the Hancock. I think it's such a cool, now I don't know what, it's funny, I get all these buildings get pissed off at me because I won't use what they're now calling it. Sears Tower is Sears freaking Tower, okay? And the Hancock is the Hancock. I don't know whatever you want to call it. And yes, it's still Sox Park and it's still Marshall Fields and so on and so forth. But I love the Hancock. I think it's just so cool. I think the views from it, the views of it, no matter where you're at, it says Chicago to me. And the other thing is the trains. I love the CTA trains, the elevated tracks. It's if you show someone who is living anywhere in the United States, they'll sit there, that's Chicago. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm always looking for.
Yeah, no, that's very true. We saw you there actually at the Tilt 360 that day. Aaron Water Show. Yeah, we were up there with you. That's right.
There's, this is a magnificent city, and if we focused on the things that are great about it, we'd love the city even more, but we kind of focus on all the other garbage.
Yeah.
But it's so pretty. The other thing I will recommend is if you can get on a boat, and you guys have done this because you did it Sail GP, if I recall, get on a boat and see what it's like from the lake. It's spectacular. Yeah. So if you can get someone to take you out there or take one of those tour boats, it's the way to go.
It's beautiful. That's for sure. Is there a land or some part of the city that new construction just killed it that you really used to like?
Yes. Oh God, no one's asked me this question.
Okay.
The Kinsey Bridge at the river, and then you have the Viagra Bridge there.
Yeah. Okay.
And you used to be able to see Sears Tower perfectly there, and now you have 150 Riverside. They built it up as the building where it kind of starts off really skinny, and then it kind of works its way up over the train tracks. That view got killed. And I think there were a lot of people who did their wedding shots there too. Now they still do it, but no offense to the people at 150, West Riverside or whatever that is. Sears Tower is the go-to, and so now that's gone. So that's one of my shots. And then, like I said earlier, I'm still irritated how they cleaned up Fullerton Avenue.
Where at Fullerton?
Where they have that theater on the park area that it's a building right on the lake.
Okay.
And that has been there forever. But just south of there, that whole area has changed. They made it look pretty. They put a lot of grass, nice sidewalks, nice bike stuff. Great for like 99.9% of the people in Chicago. For me, it really bums me out because the area had so much character. So I kind of miss that because, like I said, I used to bring people there for photography lessons.
Yeah. And now, domestically, what's your favorite city to shoot in?
There's only one city.
So you won't go anywhere else?
No.
I thought you would go other places. Like not full time, but like if you go somewhere.
I have zero interest in taking photographs of any other city.
Huh. So you're just straight Chicago and Ireland, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love going to different parts of the United States. I mean, our national parks are awesome. Yeah. I was talking about this today. Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's 7 hours away from here. It is spectacular. Most people don't even know about it. That stuff, I'm in. But if you said, why don't you go do something in New York? No. Detroit, no.
Just no interest.
Dallas, no. Never, ever, ever, ever. Yeah.
So you really just started here, and you're like, yeah, this is.
I am loyal to Chicago in every area, and I love the city. So yeah, I feel like I would be cheating on Chicago if I went and.
There's not one that gets you looking though. One like if you had to pick one city where you're like, man, this place would be pretty cool to shoot.
Okay, you know what city actually has an interesting skyline, and most people don't think about it, is Cincinnati, and it's from the other side it's actually from the Kentucky side. Most people don't realize that's a really cool, kind of compact, concentrated skyline. After that, no, I could not think of a city that would interest me at all.
Yeah, Cincinnati, good for Cincinnati getting some love in the
park. Yeah. I mean, I think their skyline chili is not that great. I mean, I'm not into the chili there. I don't know what the big deal is about it because I think we have better chili here. But their skyline is pretty darn cool from the Kentucky side. And they got these neat old bridges which are very cool in the skyline. And I forgot the ballpark there, Great American Field. Yeah. That looks cool. Just everything about it is pretty neat. You know what? Forgive me. Pittsburgh actually is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So
I mean, PNC is
plus this is an NHL city, so that's kind of important to me too. I kind of have a thing for anything that's NHL.
Hockey guy. Pittsburgh is legit too. It is really nice.
Yeah, the Three Rivers area. It kind of looks like it's on its own little island there, and then you have the mountains.
Yeah.
So it's got some character.
Yeah, no, it does. Is that so? And then Ireland. Is there any place you'd recommend people to go?
Well, first my hometown area, Wexford, Ireland. What's crazy with Ireland is that there's two countries on that island. And. Hopefully one day all 32 counties will be together. Right now it's 26 and 6. Northern Ireland is spectacular. It is really just amazing. Now in the Republic, a spot that most people don't ever go to is Donegal, which is sort of like the northwest part of Ireland. Because what ends up happening is people get into Dublin and they go across and they go to Galway because they're familiar with that name. And then they go down to the Cliffs of Moher and then the Ring of Kerry, and then they go right back up to Dublin. But Donegal is just above Galway and Sligo, and it's authentic Ireland. So there's mainly speaking Irish there, in most of the towns, not the big towns, but your small towns. And they haven't touched it. You'll never see a McDonald's or any type of franchise type of Subway or anything like that there. Yeah. It's really cool. So in the Republic, I would say Donegal. And then there's a spot just off the Kerry coast called Skellig Michael, where they actually filmed some of the Star Wars stuff. Oh, really? And it's a place where only 180 people can visit on a daily basis. It's a UNESCO site. So that's another... And I've been there twice in all my years because it's very difficult to get out there because the Atlantic there is very stormy, and so sometimes the boats can't get over there. But that's a highly recommended visit. But Donegal, County Donegal, outstanding.
That's where, like, if you really want to take Ireland in,
if you want to understand Ireland and really see authentic stuff, that's the way to go. It's more than Blarney Castle. It's more than the Cliffs of Moher. Those are the things that people typically go to.
Okay.
And Ringakerry.
Damn. All right, Barry Butler. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Anything we didn't get to?
No, I mean, I love what you guys do here. I'll tell you that much. And you guys are good guys. I see you out on the street. Heck, I saw you guys in a Jewel one day.
Yeah, that's right.
And unfortunately, I did not get my groceries paid for that day. But, and then, you can find me on social. And then I have a website, barrybutlerphotography.com. So
beautiful. And they could buy your book and your calendar. And
you can do whatever you want. Yeah. So
awesome. Go check that out. It's got some great stuff. So, Barry, thanks a lot, man.
Well, thank you for having me. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, of course. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. That's it for today. We'll be back on Monday. We'll see you then.